right, we're going to the moon. Are you ready for it? Let's understand why. So let's roll that tape. So this is why we're going to the moon, right? So we're thinking about this Artemis mission here. But I want to introduce, go ahead and have a seat there. This is the team that actually brought together the activities. So I'm not letting any of them off the hook. I at least wanted to recognize all of them for their efforts and what they've done. So with me first here, I have Juliana Sherwood from iSprowt. Next, I have Roy Harris, STEM Happens Network. Then we have Daniel Newmyer, Space Center Houston, and Cindy Hasselbring from NASA there. So again, the excitement mounts. So Juliana, I'm going to go ahead and have you start, and then Daniel, I'm going to get your presentation there.
Perfect. Good morning, everybody. Are you ready to have some fun? Yes. Oh, come on, that doesn't sound fun. Are we ready to have some fun? Where are my elementary school? Woo, elementary is in the house. All right, everybody, hold on to your rocket ships because we are about to go on a really fun adventure. As Kelli mentioned, my name is Juliana Sherwood. I'm the founder and CEO of iSprowt. I created iSprowt because I wanted to inspire the next generation of rocket scientists, engineers, entrepreneurs, and innovators. And I'm starting with elementary school because in my opinion, if we've got to grab them when they're young and inspire them on that lifelong journey of education. If we don't inspire them at their earliest days of learning, by the time they get to middle school and high school, we've lost them, right? So we need those eye-popping, mouth-dropping wow moments right from the get-go. To that end, I created a suite of integrated, hands-on STEM kits that are highly engaging, aligned around NGSS, and are so easy and simple for teachers to implement in the classroom that in less than 8 minutes, they can open up and be ready to go. All of you here today, you're already passionate about STEM. That's why you're here. But we all know the reality is that back at school, there's some teachers that are more comfortable and some that are less comfortable. And earlier, Washington mentioned how important it is that all students have access. And that's what we're talking about. That's that ripple effect that Chancellor Banks was talking about yesterday. We need to engage all of our teachers, and therefore, as a derivative, all of our students. And when I say hands-on engaging, I mean downright fun. We want to have fun when we're learning. We want laugh out loud fun. We want those memories that sink in at a level that when they're in their 40s and 50s, they're going to say, hey, remember when we launched that rocket in 2nd grade? Hey, remember when we raced that smaller car in renewable energy? How cool is that? That's what I'm talking about. And the reason why it's got to be that level of engagement and that level of fun are these statistics. Many studies have shown, and I know you guys are familiar with this, that when scholars just read, or any of us just read, think about what we read in the news, right? We retain about 10%. When we read and listen, kind of like me talking to you right now, you retain about 20%. That's great, it doubles. But when you actually do it, when you're hands-on, retention skyrockets to 80%. That's what we're talking about. That's the type of engagement that is going to put your students on a path for success, not only in academics, but in life. And aligning around that is helping your schools optimize their performance on their NGSS tests. So with that, let's talk about what we're going to do today. Today, we are about to transform all of us into astronauts. because astronauts are super cool and we love to have a good time. In elementary school, we are going to do the following. All of you received this book. All iSprowt kits come with a 40-page book. These are designed to be so simple for your teachers and your scholars, your learners, that really they can do it almost independently. I am going to now pretend like this is your less than 8-minute professional development course. And when we do this today, you are going to act like both scholars and or teachers in your classroom. You ready? Here we go. Hold on to the rocket ship. So all of our books begin, they're narrated by the fictional characters, the Sprouties. Our boy Sprouty is Spriggy. Our girl Sprouty is Twiggy. And all of the books begin with a fun little adventure story about the Sprouties. So my suggestion, scholars, is that you pick people on your team. Somebody gets to be the narrator. We're going to read out loud, just like we do in class. Somebody gets to be Spriggy, the boy. Somebody gets to be Twiggy, the girl.
And somebody gets to use a funny voice and be Crabby the crab.
And you're going to read your story and then follow along in your workbook. Today, we're going to start by blasting off. We're going to use chemistry to launch a rocket right outside that's on your table. Then, later this week, we're going to look down at Earth and play a game to discover why are we called the blue planet. Then, weather permitting, fingers crossed for some sun here in sunny Florida, we're going to have solar car races. We're going to race the smallest solar car in the world. Now, middle school and high school, don't feel too left out. You can come see our table and you can play with the cars too. Then we're going to continue on our journey to space, and now we'll be orbiting the moon. And we're going to look down at the moon and we're going to discover topography. And we're going to build our own 3D topography map of the world, of the moon. Then on Thursday, don't leave early, because on Thursday, we're going to tie it all together and we're going to build our own model of the solar system. And we're going to discover Earth's place in the solar system. So here is specifically the NGSS requirement that we are aligning around. Elementary school, put on your professional development hats. We're going to do pages 1 through 7 in your workbooks. And this is what it looks like. You're going to mix your sodium bicarbonate, that's just a science word for baking soda, with your citric acid. Use the back of your spoon to stir it together. Then we are going to use a syringe, because we're going to be very scientific in our measurements, for water. Notice how they put it on sideways to get your water and your chemicals together, and then blast off. All right. Here's how you're going to do that. I'm going to give you step-by-step instructions in your booklet. That's to get you started. But STEM is about taking risks. It's about trying things your way. You don't always have to get the right answer. Part of life and being innovative is taking risks and, candidly, not always getting it right. That's okay too. It's just as important as getting the right answer. So today, that's exactly the opportunity that I want you to have. And all iSprowt includes those level up activities where students get to take risks and try it their own way. And here's how you're going to get to try it your own way today. After you follow the directions so you understand the basis, then I want you to try it, experiment. Use different amounts of sodium bicarbonate and citric acid. Use different amounts of water. Measure. Track, we're integrating STEM, write, predict, model. Then figure out your best formula, because we're going to have a contest. We're going to line everybody up, make sure you know what got you your best launch, so you better be writing it down. And whichever team gets their rocket to launch the highest wins an iSprowt classroom kit. Ooh la la, things just got sassy in elementary school. All right, guys, so again, hold on to those rocket ships, enjoy your adventure, and I will see you on the tarmac.
Well, that was pretty exciting, right? So I got to compete with rockets, but the good thing about space exploration as the lens to look at STEM, and I say that with importance and passion behind it. I was a classroom teacher for 10 years in rural, underserved schools, worked with a lot of kids that even the administration and members of the community would say, these kids can't do science, they can't do math, so good luck. And that's the moment that I was hooked to be a teacher, because I said I was going to be brilliant, because they were bad at it, because they weren't doing any of it. And so all we had to do was get students doing what they naturally do anyway. So I taught at the middle school, high school level. I went on to do quite a bit of work at NASA, and then I am now the Vice President of Education at Space Center Houston. Yeah, thank you. Space Center Houston is a dynamic science and space exploration learning center. We are the official visitor center for NASA Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, where all the astronauts train. We have the Lunar Materials Lab in Houston. We've got engineering. We look at how do people live and survive in different worlds? How do we advance technology that furthers our work here on Earth and gives us these opportunities, to explore and do more? So a key thing I say, why space? So that's an important question for us to quickly address. Why are we looking at space? The number one pushback or question I get from teachers are, there's not much space in my standards. We do astronomy, so we look at the planets, or we look at the Earth, Moon, Sun system. We look at this, that's all, and it's just a few standards in my curriculum. Well, I'm telling you, when you look at space exploration as an industry, as a comprehensive system, I can guarantee you anything you think of is engaged in space exploration. Any subject, any area is happening right now in space exploration. It's an exciting time. We are going back to the moon. I am working with companies right now that are sending the first private lunar lander. So this is not a NASA mission. This is a private company sending a lander to the moon. The first business-to-business partnership to do research on the moon. And when we say this, why do we do it? Why do we do space exploration? Because everything that happens in space exploration impacts us on Earth. There's a key thing to understand, which is called space domain awareness. And it's this idea, you've heard of the Space Force out there, right? Some people think of it as a big joke. Well, it's not, it's real. And the reason that it's real is that there's several things in your life that is touched by space exploration right now. Our financial system, your transportation system, your communication systems, your entertainment systems are all directly controlled or utilized through space exploration. And the technology to get us there came out of the push to solve extreme problems in extreme environments through space. So if there's a why, that's a why. Another big why for your students is that there's a whole lot of jobs coming up. Okay, I just met with Blue Origin. They've got 2,800 jobs open. You look at Lockheed Martin, they've got another 2,500 jobs open. You look at SpaceX, they've got thousands of jobs open. And these are jobs in just about anything you could imagine, from graphic designer to technician to welder to rocket scientist to astronaut. So it's a great opportunity. So that's why space. The other why space is because you can do any subject you want in it. Now with middle school and high school, we're going to be a lot harder on you, because I'm going to assume that you know your students, you know your curriculum, you know your subject really, really well. And so the challenge for you is, how do you fit this in and make all of the stuff you're required to teach fit in this lens, and then look for opportunities to explore that. So we're going to do it by our blast off our journey to the moon. We're going to start with a mission where you have to investigate conditions on the moon. You're going to design a lunar habitat proposal, a 3D model, and present a presentation to promote this design. And then the second piece of your mission that your students won't have to do, but you'll have to do, is develop and present an integrated STEM plan for implementing this in your specific environment. How could this work? Look for the connections to NGSS. Look for the connections to your school. Now, even if you don't go back and implement this lunar mission in your school district, this is a great exercise to go through the process of finding new subjects, new topics, and how do you integrate that and weave in all the different STEM aspects. You're going to find things. I'm not giving you a ton of information here. You're going to have to find this out yourself as you work through. Your objectives are going to be to sustain 4 astronauts for a 500-day mission on the moon. Design a habitat for survival. You're going to have to consider the physical and psychological needs of the astronauts. And you're going to have to identify and explore the integrated STEM applications for this project. Now, what are habitats? When we talk about habitats, NASA has several habitats all around. So we've got space habitats like the International Space Station, which there's been a constant human presence in space for the last 22 years now. 22 years there's been somebody living in space orbiting Earth. So we've got that kind of habitat. When we talk about the lunar habitats, this is being designed right now. It is happening right now. I got to sit in some really cool meetings where they're talking about whether they're gonna, they've got these giant 3D printers that are taking like lunar regolith and are gonna 3D print the habitats with robots before people come. They're doing this in buildings at Johnson Space Center right now. This particular habitat, the Hera mission, is an analog mission that's happening at Johnson Space Center right now. And as I do not work for NASA. I work for Space Center Houston, so I get to say it this way, kind of. They're getting to put people in this and just mess with them. They're putting them in there and they're giving them all kinds of challenges to see how they react, what happens. So it's really cool, but these are going on right now. An exciting piece is this gateway outpost. So this gateway space is the key to the Artemis missions. It's going to be in cislunar orbit. So it's going to go close to the moon and then way out away from the moon and then close to the moon and way out away from the moon. And it's going to be like a stop-off for the astronauts and for private companies as they explore the lunar surface. So you're going to fly up, you're going to connect your ship to the gateway. You're going to stay there, you're going to get this whatever science needs. You're going to have a specific lander that's going to take you down to the surface where you can do some work. Then you can go back up to the gateway and fly back home. Or, and this is the cool or part, or go on to Mars from there and explore Mars. This is being designed and built right now. There are contracts and there are dollars being spent. I know there's a lot of folks from New York, so to put it close to you, there's a lot of dollars being spent in New Jersey right now for companies that are building this gateway and other companies around. So just know that every dollar spent in space exploration is not spent on Mars, it's not spent on the moon, it's spent on Earth, and it's giving people jobs, it's giving your students jobs to help us advance technology that we then get to use to make our lives better. You're all using it right now with your cell phones, and you're checking your email and doing that while I'm talking to you. So it's an important thing to realize that all of this comes from this great idea of exploring beyond. We've got some topics, and the reason we throw these out as topics is because you've got to figure out how it fits into your curriculum, how it fits into your areas. So you've got to understand the location. So with that, you can go into geology, you can go into a lot of different areas to understand why do you have to pick a certain location on the moon to put your habitat. You've got to think of radiation. So the moon, it's pretty rough out there. And so there's a lot of things that, can really impact you if you're out and you're not protected like we are here on Earth. You've got to figure out how are you going to breathe, because we're taking us squishy things that are designed to live really well where we are right now, and we're putting us in this extreme environment where we're not designed to be out there. And if something goes wrong, that's it. It's done. So you got to think of that. How are you going to breathe? How are you going to live? Where are you going to get your food? Because it's really expensive to send everything up. So how do we grow? How do we operate? How do we work in these environments? And when you think of food production, you have to be extraordinarily efficient when you're doing food in such an extreme environment. That efficiency plays back to how we can produce food on Earth in a more efficient, sustainable manner. You look at water. You got to have water. How do you get water? And then power sources. So these are all things you're going to have to address as you take your journey. You've got models. Your model is going to have to look for functionality, creativity. It's going to have to be neat and orderly. So as you do your design, we're going to have to see that I'm going to have to be able to actually see that it looks like a habitat, or there's something there. You've got to be labeled. It's got to have your legend. It's got to have all that really, important stuff when you do a design document. You have to include all of these things. I'm not going to read them, but you got to include all these things. You're going to get this information later too. You're going to have a first draft because the first thing we have to do is design it. So you're going to only get to design today. So sorry, middle school, high school. You're just going to have to do the hard work. You're going to have to research. I'm not giving you all the information. You all have Google at your fingertips. You all have extraordinary NASA resources on nasa.gov that you can go and find answers to just about any question you want. It's all there. You can find that. So you're going to have to do that today, and you're going to have a very short period of time to do that. You're going to have to do your plan, and your plan's going to have to get acknowledged by one of the professionals here that's going to be running around saying that you did your design work before you get to build. These are parameters. You'll get that later, but it's going to be fairly specific. And then you're going to have to present on the final day. So you're going to spend 2 days building, you're going to spend 1 day designing, 2 days building, and then you're going to present, and we're going to do a gallery walk with how well you present. You're going to need 2 things in your presentation: your model, 3 things: your design, your model, and then how you can use this as an integrated STEM project addressing NGSS standards or what you need in your curriculum, with an emphasis on that plan. So I tell you all of that with a very cool thing, and I want to ask Kelli, can I tell him now what's going to give you some inspiration to work harder? So we are going to make this a competition, and at Space Center Houston, we have an extraordinary educator conference called the Space Exploration Educators Conference. This is a conference where you implement space across the curriculum in any subject. We have master educators combined with the real scientists and engineers and astronauts that are working right now together leading workshops. We have tremendous support from NASA's Office of STEM Engagement, talking specifically on how you can gain tremendous support through the resources that NASA's Office of STEM Engagement applies. This conference has been going on for 29 years. It happens in Houston every February, and we are going to give a school, a high school, a middle school, and an elementary school 2 free registrations. And then in addition, Kelli has worked with Southwest Airlines to help provide flights to Houston in addition. So. And so I just want to tell you to get excited about it, because it is my absolute favorite thing that I did, that I get to do at Space Center Houston. And this is where you work with astronauts. You don't just listen to astronauts, you work with them, you collaborate with them. You don't just work with the best minds at NASA, you get to talk to them, you get to explore how could you use this in your classroom. So it's more about engaging and deeply getting involved to make that happen. And as Washington said, how do I get to provide access? That's a key component. This is how I get to provide access. I get to give you the opportunity to connect with NASA professionals, with space exploration professionals, and I will tell you, there is someone in the space exploration industry near you somewhere that looks like your students, that's engaged and excited to talk to your students. And it's just a matter of talking to our NASA friends, talking to others to make that connection happen. So I'm gonna leave it there. I know I got you all excited about this, so I know you're gonna do a great job.
All right, well, thank you, team. So, we're gonna go through this step by step. And as one thing you're going to say is, I didn't get a lot of instruction to what I'm supposed to do. Well, that's part of the challenge, because we want you to figure it out. Because what are we asking our students to be? Problem solvers, critical thinkers, right? Innovators. Well, that's what we're asking all of you to do. Now, one thing I also want to add, there's poster board and there's paper also on the tables. Roy, in a few moments, after we hear from Stephen Pruitt's going to talk about notebooking, because we want to make sure you're kind of documenting your learning journey. So we have some paper there so you can draft things. You're going to use the poster board to kind of showcase, because as part of this assignment, at the end on Thursday, we're going to have a gallery walk, and you're going to be able to see this. Now, we do have some experts that are in the room. And I'm going to point out, you have a whole group of red shirts. That's the NASA team. So you do have some expertise, you know, so be really nice to them. And then we also have this wonderful table over here that represents ITEA. We have NCTM. You have Al Byers over there as well, and his colleague. And then we also have IEEE. So you do have some ringers. And I am going to use some secret judges that are going to kind of walk around so that you can't try to buy them a drink afterwards, you know, hey, come on over. So we're going to have some secret judges that are there that are going to be walking around as well. So that's our challenge to you. So I want you to really think about this, because this was a very generous offer. I really want to thank Daniel. I really want to thank Juliana for putting all of this together, and Cindy and Roy for just being part of this and just helping us as we had these calls and we were brainstorming and what are we going to do. So it's exciting. So without further ado, I want to thank this wonderful panel.